Okay, well, here we are, episode 2, and can I just say, well, first of all, I'm learning, okay, so I'm putting this a bit further away from me, so I'm not in your face like that. Sorry, and yeah, so that's there. I've tried to sort out lighting, hasn't really happened. It's pretty much the exact same as before, but we will move beyond that. And yeah, first of all, thank you so much. First episode, I think got 2.5k views. The second one got just over a k. We're already at 1,000 subs. So, round of applause, by the way. How sick is that? 1,000 subscribers on the old YouTube. That is amazing. And I said on Instagram, if you're not following me, get in the get in the description. That's what these YouTubers say, isn't it? But yeah, get in there because I want to do sort of like loads of giveaways and just give back to you guys as much as you're giving to me. So I've already got a giveaway lined up to celebrate 1,000 subscribers that I'll be running on Instagram, and I'll show you all about it in a specific video over there. So definitely check that out on how to enter and stuff like that. But the next one I'm going to be doing is at 2,500 subscribers, then 5, 7.5, and 10. So let's get to 2,500 subs. So if you are new around here, drop that subscribe button. We are fostering a non-toxic, level-headed community for Manchester United fans to have good, clean, honest conversations with one another away from the toxic headline-grabbing stuff that you normally see. And we're going to keep on going the way that we have been going in the first episode with what I think is going to be a pretty key element of Ruben Amorim's plans as Manchester United head coach. Isn't it weird saying head coach instead of manager? How do you feel about that? Because personally, I mean, it's anything that goes against what Sir Alex did, frankly, is a bit odd because we've been used to that for so long. So we're sticking with like managers and we want them to have certain elements of control. But let's face it, head coaches is the way that the game is going now, isn't it? It just is. So, it would only work if we have the right backroom staff in order to bring the best out of our head coach, which I said in the last video is what I feel like we have now. So it is good that, we've seen some of the new clips. You might have seen it on the United app and on their social medias, like of Ruben Amorim and the new staff getting in with the players and actually leading sessions, which feels a lot more hands-on than what it has felt in the past. So I think that's going to be really good. But news came out recently stating, I don't know how true this is because when it comes to budgets, money and football and Man United, I have this theory that I was told, but I'm going to say it as my theory. No, someone told me, I just forgot who it was. But it was really good because I think, or they think, and now I think, maybe you think, that money in football just doesn't exist in a typical format. So, when you hear this amount of money being paid for that player, it's always in installments, it's always in a different way. Sometimes the money's not committed to a certain time and it's just wired. Like, it's not like showing up with briefcases to someone on a table. It's not how it works. So when they say United have a budget for this or a budget for that, they don't really know, for one. These in the know accounts, very few of them actually know what's going on. Like, they want to claim like they do. They want to go on social and be like, I'm the person who broke this. I'm the person who knows that. Ruben Amorim's dad called me for a chippy and I said to get the cod. Like, they don't really know. As of right now, I just follow David Ornstein, right? And people like him. As soon as Ornstein drops that bomber and he gets everything out that he needs to get out and he just kind of dips it in ducks, that's what I want. No fanfare, no weird stuff, no teasing something for about 84 posts and then posting it. Just get us to the point, mate. And so until he says anything or someone like him, I don't really know. But a key element will definitely be that Amorim is coming in to improve what he's already got, to work with who he's got, whether it's in the first team or the academy, to bring them forward. So this video is about 5 players who I think can improve under Ruben Amorim. Get in the comments if you disagree or agree with me. I want to hear what you think because there are a couple of names in here which I have to admit, I'm not going to say I'm clutching at straws, but some straws are clutch. So let's just go for the first one, okay? Mason Mount. Mason Mount is so far ranking as a pretty poor signing for United and largely down to his fitness issues and the best ability is availability, and he's the antithesis of that at the minute. He has been pretty unlucky with injuries, especially like he had a head injury earlier this season. He's having a lot of muscular injury since he left Chelsea, so it has been difficult, to be honest, to see light at the end of the tunnel with Mason. But we have to remember there's still a pretty tidy technical player in there, and I feel like, and a lot of these players that we'll come to, I feel like have the same problem. I don't think the fee has nothing to do with the player, and I don't think that he would have been signed in the way that we signed him under INEOS. Like, I think they would have had the nous to say his contract's up at the end of the year. Let's see if we can get him on a pre-contract Bosman rule in January rather than shelling out 60 million quid and not knowing where he's going to fit. And that's the kind of problem we've been having. But that last bit I just said, not knowing where he's going to fit. Ruben Amorim plays with two tens or two cams. He could fit there. And, we need intensity and we need runners and we need versatility, really, to play in the wings or to go into the wings and to play like an inverted centre forward, inverted right forward, and inverted left, and a centre forward at times. So we need our cams to be as mobile as possible. Mason Mount could fit the bill. And frankly, him, Bruno, Rashford, we have to see what he does, but definitely with Diallo, we're seeing these players are going to come into that central role, or we assume they're going to come into that central role, and I think he could have a pretty good impact there, but it is down to his fitness, and we just don't know whether he's going to be able to do that, because conditioning is going to be key in any Amorim system. He's shown that with any of his players, which is probably why academy graduates are sort of the way to go, because you can mold them under this system and make them good players for multiple systems because of the way that he plays, but condition, fitness and discipline are all going to be key. And Mason is going to have to say that he's going to have to prove to Amorim that he is one of those players that can justify being put into his system, given the amount of competition that's going to be for those two cam places, with one of them sewn up in Bruno. So Mason, I think, is definitely one to watch, and I think he can only improve. So he's a bit of a cheat code in this list, really. He can only improve. He hasn't really done much, but in that type of role, I think he could probably flourish in that kind of system under Amorim. And one player that we know has flourished a lot under Amorim is a big Scandinavian striker. We already got one of them. So what I will say on this next pick is Rasmus Hojlund. Ruben, whatever you did with Victor, do with Rasmus. I want the same eating plan. I want the same dietary regimen. I want the same nutritional supplement ingestion. I want the same reading list that boy has before bed. Whatever you did to make Gyökeres as good as he is, do it with Rasmus Hojlund. Okay, they're not the exact same player. No two players are going to be the same. However, they're pretty darn close. Young, big, burly, strong, physical, fast, just battering rams of centre forwards, and they have a bit of flair about them as well. Rasmus has already shown that he can score a wide variety of goals, whether it's a finesse over the top of a goalkeeper or just powering his way through. He can score a good amount of goals. So we always, everyone's going to say, until it happens, or until Gyökeres moves elsewhere, will he team up with Amorim again? Will he come to Manchester United? And my honest opinion is I don't think he will, because I think, he's probably got other options where they need a starting centre forward. I can see Gyökeres going to Arsenal. I don't want to put it out there in the universe. I kind of have now, but I think he'll go somewhere like that. United is a possibility, but unless we're playing two up top, you can't have a backup striker that's 70 odd million and a main striker that's like 80, similar ages as well, and then say that there's much of a pathway for a youth player like Chidowobby Martin to come through. He's another one that I could easily have put on this list, and a similar reason with Rasmus Hojlund. That's a 6'3" goal scoring machine. So let's see what he can do, because I know Amorim has had a really good pedigree of working with young players, so Chidowobby Martin is a really good option to have in that type of role. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do there. And that is one of the bigger problem areas of the squad, is that striking position and scoring goals. But the biggest problem area, we've known it for years, is our left back position. Luke Shaw, as much as I respect the hell out of Luke Shaw for coming back from his leg break to reach his peak, which he definitely did in a couple of seasons for us and definitely with England, he has been among one of the best left backs in the country, and to do that after an injury and an operation where quite a few specialists said he might not be able to walk again, that's a great feat in anyone's book. So fair play to Luke. But when it comes to playing in a potential title challenging squad, which is where this squad wants to be, you can't rely on someone like Luke Shaw, and I think he knows that as well. So you can't rely on Luke Shaw. And with Thuram Malacia, I was very clear, especially on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that we need to go a bit careful with Terrell because no one knew what was going on. We didn't know if there was something just chronic with his injuries. We didn't know if there was something more sinister at play. I just said I tried to exercise as much caution as I could. Obviously, when he came back, I was like, oh, he's alive, he's here, great. But we still don't know what it was, and it's slowly starting to come out that there were just chronic injuries after injuries after injuries. So can he come back after a year out? A year out of the game is a long time when you're in your early 20s, in your developmental years, when you're supposed to use that time to get used to your fully developed frame, and you're supposed to use that time to actually get some muscle memory in there. His muscles will forgot everything he's supposed to have done in the last year. So I'll be interested to see him come back, and hopefully, really out of the two, I could probably see Malacia settling into an Amorim type system of marauding fullbacks and high intensity and energy. Probably better than Luke Shaw, especially over a longer period of time. But Harry Amas, it was the one player that I thought under Ten Hag, when you had Garnacho come through one year, Mainu the next, I thought Amas was going to be the next one. Toby Collier was another that we can definitely see in the shallower midfield areas with Casemiro and Ugarte fighting for that kind of, battling spot. But Harry Amas is clearly being touted around as one of the better and more highly rated players by the hierarchy, because we wouldn't have bought him from Watford if that was the case. And it could be a pretty opportune moment for someone like him. I know he's 17, turning 18, I think, but with that left back role so uncertain, and with us wanting to maybe get some, get some sort of like competition going between Dalot and Mazraoui just to improve one another, then that spot is definitely up for grabs. It's the way it is right now, having Dalot and Mazraoui just go back. I mean, they're both good. Mazraoui has been brilliant. It's been my signing of the summer, but you can't just rely on those two because one of them's playing out of position the whole time. So Amas just seems like, for his age, for his technical profile, his physical profile, could be a really good shoe-in to improve under Amorim. And the next two, I'm clutching at straws with this one, I'll be honest, because everything I've just said about Mason Mount, I'm kind of going back on, aren't I, with my next choice, which is Joshua Zirkzee. Now, I want Joshua Zirkzee to succeed because right now it's just everything is out there to make this kid a meme, and even from our own supporters, they're doing that as well. So calling him a 9.5, him calling himself a 9.5, you can get away with at pretty much every other club. You just get scrutinized for everything you say here, because he's essentially saying that he's not a typical forward, which he isn't. I mean, we all saw how when Gabriel Jesus says that he's a striker that doesn't like scoring goals or something to that effect. I still remember that now. You probably remember that as well. And these sorts of statements are going to stick with you. So even though he's trying to say that he's the type of player that doesn't fit into most systems, he's going to have to, because he's now got a systematic manager. So I'm just interested to see how he's going to fare, because so far what we've seen is quite a languid and slower and more tentative version of the Joshua Zirkzee we saw at Bologna. And he's got to get used to the speed of the game. The speed of the game is so much different in England and in European competitions from the position of power rather than being the underdog all the time, because he was playing like that. He was playing with a sense of freedom and a sense of, wanting to beat the bigger teams because of where he was at Bologna in Serie A. They were never intended to go as far as they did. They were always going to have standout players. That's why he and Calafiori, obviously, who went to Arsenal, they were able to do that. But at Manchester United, I think he's learned now, he's had to learn quickly, but I think he has learned that you're going to have to step up to the plate pretty quickly. And I've seen some synergies being made with other language strikers. I mean, we've had Eric Cantona and Dimitar Berbatov. He is nowhere near that level. Don't even try and say that that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say the profile is similar and the height is similar and the way they're built is similar, but his first touch has to improve, because that's where the other two are so great. And that's where all these less mobile strikers or forwards are great at. Your first touch is impeccable and your vision is brilliant. And we haven't seen those two things. And goal scoring, we haven't seen enough of either. We've only seen him score once, a good goal, but only once. So I do want to see him improve. He's not going to be that breaking the line striker. He's just not built that way. But he's definitely the kind of player who, when we need to unlock a defense in one of the cam positions, or when we just go balls to the wall and play two strikers up top and him linking up with Hojlund or Chido Martin at some points, I think that's going to be a really special one to look at. So I want him to succeed. He's only just got here. He's only been here for like 9-10 games. But his intensity and his lack of agility is going to be an issue. So let's just see where he goes with that, because he can only go up from this point, and he definitely could improve under Amorim. And bear in mind, I'm looking at first teamers here. This next one though, let me take a drink. Hang on. What you're looking at is hard, man. It's hard just to keep talking this whole time and to keep you engaged and to do all these things that I'm supposed to be doing and not have a little sip of the Bucks. God, I need to have my H2O. But look, this next one, okay, is look, okay. This next one, it's gonna ruffle a few feathers, but I need you to hear me out, okay? It's Antony, okay? One of the players that I think can improve under Ruben Amorim is Antony. I just want to go through the whole thing with this guy, okay? Because there's a lot to unpack when it comes to Antony. It's not a face value type proposition when we look at this guy. And I just want to go through each element of it just to add some sort of level-headedness and fairness when we come to assessing the guy, okay? The first one is the fee. There's nowhere that he can walk in Manchester without someone reminding him of how much he cost the club. Now, when was it the player's fault of how much a club pays for your player? Is just because a club pays 100 million euros or whatever it was, doesn't then mean that you were automatically valued at that and that your ability is at that level. And if you don't behave like a 100 million euro player, then you're not a good player. That's not really on him, that specific fee element, especially when you think of the fact that Ornstein himself was the one who came out and said that we'd agreed a 25 to 30 million euros plus bonuses offer with Ajax to conclude the deal for Antony at the beginning of the window where he was signed. So that was Ten Hag's first season, I believe. So if you're then gonna have that in place, but then you wait until, 3 weeks into the season? Because his debut was against Arsenal, wasn't it? And that was after the Liverpool game, I want to say. So if you're then gonna wait that long to sign someone and then let Ajax twist your arm and say, oh, it's 100 now or nothing, because the bargaining position has changed. And then you go to someone like Ten Hag, and this is where everyone kept saying, is it Ten Hag's fault? Is it Antony's fault? Whose fault was it? And the thing I think is, Ten Hag, when he was at the club, yes, he might have had a veto on certain suggestions. Yes, he could have easily said, I think that if he said, I don't want Antony to sign for that amount of money, then maybe it wouldn't happen at all. But I'm trying to look at it with a bit of realism, because if you go into another job and it's not your money you're working with the biggest club in the world who makes money, hand over fist, and you get the option of either having someone you worked with, right? You have someone you worked with who was performing, who was brilliant for you and was one of the standout wingers in the world for the time that you were there, which he was, or no one. Those were the two options that were being put out there, and we didn't have anyone in that right wing position. So you're going to pick, well, you could say we had Diallo, but was he ready? I think Diallo needed that Sunderland stint and the Rangers stint in a little bit to get to where he is now, to get that hunger and to get that physicality. And Antony, you have as a manager coming in, you want someone to make your job a little bit easier. And if you can have a flair type player that you think will get people off their seats, get people excited, and it's either him or no one, and the fee is ridiculous, but it's either him or you got no choice at all, and you might go through the summer or season thinking, why didn't I go for that? You're going to go for it, aren't you? So I want to just be fair with that, because I do find it weird to just wholly blame Ten Hag for that. It's easy to blame a manager back in the day when they had all the say. That's not really how it worked here, because Arnold and Murta had an absolute stinker with this entire negotiation, and Ajax caught us with our trousers pulled down. That is exactly what's happened, and I think it's been pretty clear that that's what's happened. But with him, it's odd because he's actually had some moments, hasn't he? He has, not enough, obviously, but the goal against Barcelona, the goal against Arsenal, I think he scored the equaliser against Liverpool in last season's FA Cup run. And then Diallo obviously went on and scored the winner. So he has had something in there, but it's just been nowhere near enough. And last season, I was very, very tentative to talk about him because there were these court allegations made against him. Now, I'm not going to go into what they were because, it's now looking like the court case has been dropped, for what allegedly happened with him and an ex-partner. So, apparently it's been dropped, but none of us know. It's not to the case where we heard anything or saw anything like we saw in another case, obviously, which loads of people's made synergies between. But we have to be very careful if there is a victim here, but also if there has been a false allegation here, because no matter what, that derailed him last season. He couldn't really play because of it. I think he spent about 2 or 3 months out fighting those allegations, and he won the fight, but we this is the world we live in. We don't know, that might not be the full stop to it. So we have to act very gingerly here. Like we have to look at it and be like, did these things happen? Did they not? And this is something for the club to really look at. But I'm not going to be the type of guy who just says he did this when it's based on an allegation, or he didn't do this because he's my player. Like you can't do that. I haven't seen or heard anything to suggest that I can think a type of way about it. All I know is that there is still a potential for these charges to be brought back again, but for now, the case is closed. For now, the case is closed. And I don't want to play with that kind of baggage. I don't think any of us do, but if this is now a time for him to prove that the case is closed, because that needs to happen first and foremost. And I'm pretty sure the hierarchy are going to ask for that as well before he gets a consistent rollout in the team. And then under Amorim, he could potentially reinvent himself as a wingback. So it's not like I'm saying that Antony is an incredible profile and he needs to be in the squad straight away and he needs this, but he does have the intensity. He does have some flair. He does have some technical ability. So why not put him in a role where he can use his intensity and his pressing to the best of his ability and hone those abilities while also linking up with players that are now going to be closer to him. It's not going to be right winger, you face your man, the best man wins. It is now going to be, you're going to be supported by one of the cams. You're going to see a striker rolling off you. Can we now improve subtle areas of your game in order to make you a reinvented left or right wing back so that you can benefit from the coaching that you're getting from this new Ruben Amorim system? So can we do that? It remains to be seen. And does he have the technical quality and the mentality in order to do it? It remains to be seen. Like these stories came out that he was unhappy playing left back or a makeshift left back against Liverpool. When it comes to the stories like that, I just don't know what to believe because I need to hear it from the horse's mouth. Because you can easily look at most players and say that they're annoyed at most parts of the game and then let it suit a narrative. But I haven't looked into that one enough. And I'm just going to be honest and not jump on something and say he's this, he's that. I don't know. So we have to wait and see with all of these things. I definitely want to make sure that any cloud that he had last season is gone and gone in the best way possible. Don't do what you can because you're a Man United player and don't let Man United use their name and finances to sweep something under the rug. If something's happened, deal with that. If not, and you can move on with your life, then move on with your life. Now, and if that means being at Manchester United, then do that. And I can already tell that there are going to be people, maybe in the comments of this, or anyone who's watching, that might point out the similarities in this case and another right winger that I can't actually say because I'll probably lose, like the video might get taken down. And to that I'll say, the amount of evidence that we saw in one is nothing like the amount of evidence we saw in another. I think there was clearly some sort of conversation that's gone on behind the scenes where statements were put out to sort of put one thing to bed and another statement was put out to say, we need to move on as a club. So the finality of this whole thing is that the new ownership didn't want to move forward with that player. So what that suggests, I'm not even going to bother saying what that suggests. But what it does mean is that they are probably now going to look at every kind of case with a similar level of totality and say yes or no. And that's what we've needed because that one got swept under the rug for so long. We didn't know where we stood with it. And it divided the fans on a pretty key issue regarding women's safety and women's rights and men's rights and almost the ability to kick a ball all of a sudden increasing social standing to the point where your morals don't even come into consideration anymore. Whether it happened or not, that was the conversation that happened and we don't want any of that. So don't sweep it under the rug to Man United. Don't sweep anything under the rug. Address it properly, head on. And if you come to the conclusion that you can move forward, then do that. But that's why I wanted to highlight this little segment on Antony because he is the biggest talking point and where I think the fee that we paid for him was astronomical, should never have been paid, but it was clear. If anything, it's more of an indictment of how badly we were run than how bad of a player Antony is. Because if we paid that 20 to 25 million pounds, you might have said we still got fleeced, but I don't think many would have said that personally. But those are the five. I mean, you were looking at Rasmus Hojlund, Mason Mount, Joshua Zirkzee, Harry Amas, and Antony as five players who I think could improve under Ruben Amorim. And that is purely obviously based on, this is another thing, okay? It's purely based on what conjecture, really. It's based on what he's done before, and it's based on what he could do for us now. Just because you've done something in the past is no indication that you're going to do it in the future. We've seen that with most signings over the last few years. But what I will suggest is that there are pieces to fit within his jigsaw. Some of them aren't going to fit, and he's going to have to kind of, file round the edges of a square peg to fit a round hole. But that could mean developing certain players who have technical qualities, like all of these players do, and hone them into players who can fit his system, and therefore kind of take their career on a whole new trajectory. Because if any of these players can do well, especially Rasmus Hojlund, that's the one I'm looking at, because Rasmus possesses a lot of the things that I want in a striker. I love his humility. I actually like his humor. I like even little things. I like the fact that he clearly controls his social media, because we know who we're talking to. And I like that he's connected with the fans in that way. I love this celebration when he got his first goal after a few months of a barren spell against Villa, I think, on Boxing Day last year, because he wants to be here and he wants to improve. And I think that is, and he always wants to get better and score goals for Manchester United. And 16 goals last season in all competitions isn't a bad result, but he needs to improve that figure in the league if we're then going to say you're our man. Because right now I want him to be our man, but we're going to have to wait and see. And the similarities he's got with Gyökeres are clear. So let's just see what can happen. But that is the video in total. I went over a little bit longer than I thought, probably on the old Anthony thing, but there was a lot to discuss there. So I want you to get in the comments what you think of the picks that I've just made, but also if there are any players that you think I missed. I wanted to keep it to 5. There are a lot of players that I think can improve under this system. I haven't even spoken about Lenny Euro because, well, how can you improve when we haven't seen you yet? I haven't really spoken about any of the centre-backs. The goalkeeper will probably improve, even though he is improving. So I want you to get it in there and get in why, because also I've made very clear that I'm not exactly a master tactician, when it comes to this sort of thing, but I'm just using what data I do have and what I'm seeing to kind of make an informed decision, which is really what a lot of people do and don't admit. That's what I'm doing. That's what we do as fans, and I want you to do it with me in the comments and get it in there and subscribe. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we're over 1,000 subscribers in 3.5 days, or 5 when this goes out. So it's insane. I really want to say thank you for that, and I want to see where we can build this. Genuinely, I want to see where we can build it, because there is a lot to be said for just encouraging level-headed, fair, and honest communications between Manchester United fans. We've had pretty much every reason to be divided and to be toxic over the last few years, and a lot of people have capitalized on that. And I just want us to build a platform together, this platform together, where we can just have good, honest conversations about United and not have to pile on players all the time, or not have to just take things at face value, but look at things properly with an objective eye and with a fair eye, and get to the kind of conversations that we're having right now, like that you're going to have in the comments, that we're going to have, because that's our job as fans. We all want the best for our club. So let's just make the best environment possible for the fans of this club. Do you know what I mean? So thank you all so much. I really appreciate you stopping by on this video. Drop a like as well. We got 200 on the first one, 100. Let's get 100 likes on this video. Get 100 likes on the video. That'd be sick, actually. So yeah, check it out. All the links in the description to enter the giveaway that I'm doing. You'll see it all on Instagram, maybe TikTok, but you'll definitely see it on Instagram. And I'll see you all soon. But yeah, Ruben Amorim's here. It was nice, because he was training, and he had RA, rah rah rah. It was nice, and he had a beard. It was nicely shaped, and he just the curls and everything. He's volumized, and he had a Moncler jacket on. I just like this guy. Imagine him dunking on people's head tops wearing Air Forces. You know what I mean? That's just gonna be really cool. I like Amorim. I think he's a good boy. But he's our good boy. He is our good boy. Good. I'm going. Okay. Thank you all so much. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.